Let's go. What's up, everybody? It's me, Professor Broman. I'm here with my lovely brother, Teawrex. And we are going to teach you some fucking Twitch stuff. It's going to be really cool, man. Welcome to Streaming 101, guys. How are you? Today we're going to be talking about charity streaming in the heart and spirit of a big charity event that's happening right now on Twitch. We got a lot of questions about this last week, and I got a lot of questions in chat this week about how do I do an effective charity stream. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Everything from picking a charity to running your stream, best way to do it, how to collect donations, etc. Isn't that right, T-Rex?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
Fuck yeah. So, if you guys don't know what AGDQ is, because there's a big chance that none of you do, it will still be happening when we publish this to iTunes and everywhere else, and YouTube and all that stuff. It is Awesome Games Done Quick, or just Games Done Quick, twitch.tv/Games Done Quick. It is a charity marathon from the speedrunning community to raise money for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. T-Rex and I have actually both been involved in the AGDQ before. Do you recall what we did? Do you know what we did?
Yeah, in AGDQ 2014, we speedran a 4-player Borderlands co-op run with iMisty and Ubergoose.
It was
Really fun. That was the first time they broke $1 million for PCF, which was also super freaking hype and cool.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Now they do it every time.
Yeah, like when we were there when there was the Chrono Trigger run, and everyone was so hyped about it, and they were like, yeah, like fucking we're gonna hit $1 million. This is never gonna happen again.
Yep.
And then now it happens all the time. I think they're already at 200,000, and it's only been like a day.
Yeah, it's been about 30 hours almost, I think. So I think it started at noon my time, maybe a little over 30 hours, but yeah, that's insane. Almost 10, like nearing 10 grand an hour is pretty absurd.
It's pretty incredible. It's an incredible event. So people look at events like AGDQ and they're like, yo, this is incredible. I want to raise money like that for charity. Usually the first question I get is, yo, bro, man, I don't stream often, but I want to do a charity stream on Twitch. Tell me what to do. My advice in that situation is don't. I mean, it's in reality, you're entering into a platform where you don't already have any presence, and you're not going to be very successful. I think that one of the first things to consider when you're trying to raise money for charity is setting appropriate expectations for yourself and for the charity that you're working with. And going into something completely blind and with no social media presence or anything like that is never really going to turn out good for anyone. And I know that when you ask that question, when you're trying to get started in charity streaming or something like that, or trying to raise money for any charity, you want to be successful. So Teawrex and I are going to try to break down things that you can do to make your charity stream successful, and design it in a way that's going to be fun to watch, and it's actually going to get people to watch. What would you say what would be your biggest piece of advice to someone who's doing a charity stream, T?
Biggest piece of advice? I would say the biggest piece of advice, because I think it's just kind of the technical or like back end side, is just make sure you know how to handle how you're handling the money you're either taking in, or like how that's going to happen. Because I think that's the most fundamental piece that maybe isn't done properly.
Totally.
Like maybe you're someone who's like, okay, we're going to donate all proceeds from today's stream to PCF or Doctors Without Borders, or take your pick, St. Jude, something like that, right?
Yeah.
That money is, I'm assuming at that point, if you're donating the proceeds from your stream, I'm thinking you don't have a link set up and stuff like that. It's all going directly through you to them,
right.
Which can lead to a lot of, well, it's not as bad when you're doing smaller amounts, but when you get to the more exponential amounts of charity money, so let's say it's like 50 grand, that is money that you are taking in as income, and then money you're having then to give to the to something like your charity. We had a horror story from Mike Uyama, how when he was first creating the GDQs, he had
Mike Uyama oh no, you're explaining who he is. Never mind.
Yeah, so he basically helped kick off the GDQs, and he was one of the founders of all the stuff. But originally in one of the first marathons that they did, he basically held the money in an account that he owned, and they basically couldn't get it to the charity the way they needed to. And it was almost going to roll over into the next taxable year. And the problem with that is, if it's still on his account, that means that he would have to pay taxes on it because it's his at that point.
Oh, shit.
And stuff like that.
Not good.
It can be a mess.
So handling the
I would
funds.
say make sure you understand how the back end of like the money moving is probably, I would say, critical. Just for your safety, and then also just for integrity purposes, like try to always distance yourself from where the money's going, so that way no one could even possibly say, "Hey, did you buy that soda pop with money that was going to go help sick kids?"
Yeah, exactly.
That could have been a sick kid's soda. That Dr. Pepper belonged to little Timmy, and he has a tumor. It's your fault.
It's very important to stay like on the up and up when you're working with a charity. Most charities at this point are going to have a PayPal link that you're going to be able to work with. For Guardian Con, which is a charity event that that the Destiny community put on last year and is returning again this year, we raised money for we raised money for St. Jude. We raised money. It's AGDQ, man. I'm like in that mode.
No, I understand. I completely understand.
Yeah, so it's so we're raising money for St. Jude, and what we did was we just grabbed the St. Jude donation link from their website, plugged that into our Twitch streaming channel's Stream Tip or Streamlabs link, so that way every time somebody donated via that link, it would go straight to St. Jude. They get a receipt that says, "Thank you for donating to St. Jude." It doesn't say my name or Guardian Con or any of that shit. And then that person gets a receipt at the end of the fiscal year for donating to St. Jude. Essentially, the best thing that you can do is get a hold of that PayPal link before your stream starts. Set it up so that when people donate, it does that. What Streamlabs and StreamTip do is considered a man in the middle. So they're setting up basically a thoroughfare that lets you and the people watching know that money is going through Streamlabs going into St. Jude. Because at first I was really concerned about that. I didn't really understood how that worked. And that brings up an important point. Raising money is a lot about, especially with charity streaming, it's about goal setting. And along with setting a goal, you have to make sure that people can track how close you are to said goal. So making sure that you understand and that you set up, the alert systems for your stream, even if the charity that you're working with isn't comfortable with that, which I have heard from a lot of people who are just sort of trying to break new charities into Twitch, that they're extremely uncomfortable with sharing their PayPal link and stuff because they don't understand how, what's a pop-up on the screen going to do for me? How is that going to result in more money for our charity? That doesn't seem to make sense. But it's so important because it drives hype. It lets people track it. It makes people feel acknowledged instantaneously. And of course, it ends up raising more money for charity. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. So do you have any advice for someone who is, all right, they've been streaming for a while, or they got a group of people together and they want to do a charity event? Do you have any advice for them if they're looking for a charity to work with? Like what kinds of charities should I work with, T, if I'm trying to set on a good charity stream?
I mean, honestly, it's whatever you're passionate about. That's kind of my hard and fast rule. I've do and don't work with plenty of folks in that regard. PCF is always going to be one that I always want to support the AGDQ, specifically because our dad had cancer and PCF helped out for early detection, and he beat it because of it. So that's always super important to me. But then I know there's plenty of other great charities that do a lot of stuff with troops, but I don't have a lot of family who is in the military and stuff like that, so that's not as important to me. Not saying it's not important, but for my drive to raise money is more important for something like cancer or mental illness, stuff like that. So I would say finding a charity that resonates with you, because you will actively work harder for something you care about. That's just an easy thing to say. And then make sure that they're obviously also a real charity, and you know, they aren't just charity for show. Won't name names, won't do stuff like that, but make sure you're supporting people who actively help out whatever they are supposed to be helping out with and stuff like that.
You need to make sure partner with a brand friendly channel, raising money for PETA and a seal for coat, not exactly the charity for you. That actually brings up a really good point. When you're selecting a charity, you have to understand the audience that you're working with on Twitch. And Twitch, I love you, chat. You're amazing and wonderful, but the average Twitch viewer is a vicious son of a bitch when it comes to their money, which is fine. It's okay to be a vicious son of a bitch about your money and your opinions. So like, for example, if you pick a charity that has been politicized, PETA is a good example. You might super love animals, but you should be ready for people to come into your chat and say, I love clubbing baby seals all fucking day. Or saying all sorts of ridiculous shit, because if you're picking a charity or something that isn't commonly known, you're going to need to understand that you're going to be an ambassador for that charity. You're going to also take on the role of educating people. You're going to take on the role of educating people for that charity. So if people see you helping out a charity and they're kind of like, I don't know about that, that sort of seems like bullshit, I think that charity's garbage, you're actually going to kind of do a disservice when it comes to raising money, because you're not going to be exposing a proper charity. You're not going to be exposing the charity to a group of people that they can benefit from. If that makes sense. So obviously working with medical charities tends to be the thing that you see the most on Twitch, because everybody benefits from medical charities. Prevent Cancer Foundation does research that helps people across the entire world. St. Jude does research and grant funding and helping kiddos, survive catastrophic diseases. There are certain things that no matter where you're at on the spectrum, politically, socially, economically, you're not gonna, unless you're horrible, because some people are horrible, you're not gonna come into a Twitch chat and say, yo, fuck those kids, I hope they all die from cancer. Okay? That's a line that most people will accept that you shouldn't cross. In addition to that, you may or may not get requests from people who want you to support their GoFundMes. Let's take a quick moment and talk about those. T, what is a GoFundMe for those people who don't know?
A GoFundMe could be anything. Basically, it's a crowdsourced campaign for money for usually somebody in need, or a need itself. Whether it's like, hey, my house burned down, my friends and family can help with money, stuff like that. I personally, I don't mind them at all. What I personally don't like is kind of being hit up, kind of like cold callers, where people will come into my chat where it's public at that point and be like, hey, Teawrex, can I post this charity link? Because I feel like that puts me in a corner to where, one, without knowing who they are more or less trying to, even though it's for a good cause, potentially, like they're asking for money and they're asking for publicity from me, when like it's visually to viewers, I'm assuming they probably think I'm an asshole if I say no. I then almost always explain myself saying like, oh, you're welcome to, let's say, throw it to me on Twitter and I can look at it. And then maybe I can, we'll talk about it on stream next time. But it just seems like so many folks have so many GoFundMes for so many different things that I don't feel that layer of trust, because it seems like you don't always know where the money's actually going. Like, it's just, I don't know.
No, I
anyone can do
agree.
It's because anyone can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are.
And you could be getting tricked.
To me, it seems like GoFundMes are great for small communities of people where everyone knows each other, to where it's like supporting someone in need. For doing a GoFundMe or supporting a GoFundMe, I just personally don't like being hit up by somebody I don't know. If you support a GoFundMe, let's say Ben, your house burns down.
Yep.
And you're like, hey Sam, I have this GoFundMe to help me rebuild my house. And to pay the insurance deductibles, or I don't even know how that even works for houses, but you need 10 grand or something, and you have no money. I'd be like, yes, I trust Ben that he would take that money and use it as intended. So I would publicize it on my channel because I trust Ben and stuff like that. But when I just get randomly hit up by somebody I don't know, it's that layer of trust or layer of research is gone. So I just have this visceral, like, I don't want to get swindled kind of thing. I don't like being put on the spot, especially for charity, because I feel like it's just not it's borderline. It's just I feel like it's rude, but it is charity. But even if it's charity, it can still be rude, I guess.
Yeah, like absolutely. And GoFundMe's, they're not tax deductible, which is the point people are bringing up. I have only just now recently started delving into that as an opportunity to help people. Like, I have one stream a month where I tell everybody on the broadcast, I say, this is a giving back stream. This is someone in our community who I have vetted and done my research on, and they need help, and I trust them. And then we'll do a stream where all revenue that day goes to help them. But I do it with the understanding that people know it's not a charity, and people know that they're helping someone out. That's it. And I've only managed to really do that one time because I get reached out to a lot by it. A lot of people will make suggestions for the giving back streams, and something will smell funny, and I really have to trust it 100% to put my name on the line and say I trust these people. The money's going to a good thing. So it can be a really touchy subject. If you want to do it, my recommendation is do your research, and if you have an inkling of a funny feeling, walk the hell away from it. Walk away from it. So coming back to picking a charity.
And real
yeah,
quick,
you go 1 second. Go ahead.
People said in chat, yeah, I know. GoFundMe's are not actual charities. You are giving money to a random person or even a person in a time of need. It's not tax deductible. I understand that. But charity can extend past just charitable donations to a charitable LLC and stuff like that. Charity can be you helping out a homeless person by buying them lunch, So just keep that with a grain of salt. I understand that. And I would hope that you do too. That if it's not a charitable LLC, it can't be like, I gave my brother $10,000 for his house. Time to deduct that on my taxes. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So circling back, when you pick a charity, make sure that you have a charity that you're working with that people are going to recognize and that's quote unquote Twitch acceptable, because those are going to be the places where you're going to find your stream able to be most successful. Another charity, so charities that we've both worked with in the past. I've worked with St. Jude's, Prevent Cancer Foundation, Doctors Without Borders, Operation Supply Drop, Game Changers, and there's one more I'm forgetting. It's bad. It's another military charity. Those are the folks that I have worked with in the past and have had great success on Twitch. Have you worked with anyone different than me, T?
For charity stuff?
Yeah.
I can't think off the top of my head.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe so. I don't think so. Like everyone's been the exact same.
Not to wait.
Stacked Up. That's right. Stacked Up. Stacked Up is the other military charity that I worked with. So those have all had some relatively good successes. I've never felt like I was constantly defending my choice of charity. Something you should be emotionally prepared for, though, and this is just going to happen because it's charity trolling and kind of pathetic, but people will say shit like, why would I give money to name charity 1 when you should give money to name charity 2 because they're worth more time. They're worth more for my dollar. People are going to tell you that whatever charity you're working with in the troll situation, that your charity's bullshit and people should give money to another charity. My recommendation is to flat out ignore them.
It's like being bullied into being like, no, you shouldn't buy a Honda. You should buy a Toyota. They're both cars. Yeah, but Hondas are something. I don't even know if that makes sense. But just it's like I don't know. It's like a pushy salesman. Just like, let me spend the money how I want to. Gosh dang. Let me donate to where I want to.
Gosh
not
dang.
Your money. The biggest thing is like it's not their money. It's yours.
Yeah.
People are far too interested in business that is not theirs.
Exactly. And people are just butting their nose in there. So yeah. So pick a charity that people are willing to work with, people that you're comfortable supporting, and you're going to be sort of in the clear for getting started. So now that you've picked a charity and you've got your alert setups and you've got your goals set, and I guess we should talk about goal setting. Goal setting is a tough beast. It takes a little while to hone in. You want to make sure when you're picking a goal that you're picking a goal that you know almost unequivocally that you can meet, because people like meeting goals.
Yeah.
And then after they meet goals, people like decimating them. So it's kind of for me, the way that I do goal setting on the charity streams that I've been a part of is you pick a goal that you know that you're like, in the worst case scenario, there's no way I could raise any less than this amount of money. And in the best case scenario, we'll probably raise 5 times more. And, and that's exactly what we did with Guardian Con. The original goal was $100,000. We ended up raising $544,000. And part of that is because people love seeing that bar pushed so much farther than they would ever expect. So I would say when you're setting a goal, know your community and kind of get a gauge on it. If you're going to do a big event, which I don't recommend doing right out the gate, do some smaller events and sort of estimate, and T mentioned this before with AGDQ, estimate the dollars per hour raised on average, and then build your event out based on that. You know? Yeah, exactly. So that's a little bit on goal setting. So you got your goal set, you got the charity you want to work with. Now it's time to do the actual stream. T, what shouldn't you do?
I mean, there's not really a whole lot of things you shouldn't do, because in the end, it's all for charity. You know, you can make a fool of yourself for charity all day long. I've done it. I think most of us have done it at this point. But a lot of the things you want to avoid is anything that's like controversial of any kind. Like, you're there is to focus on the charity. It doesn't matter if you think something is right or wrong. So let's say, you know what, you are a shirt. Let's say in 2017 there's a big biscuit scandal about biscuits versus croissants, and you walk onto your charity stream with a "I love biscuits" shirt. Doesn't matter if it's like 90% of people love biscuits and then 10% love croissants, and there's only like a small margin of people who don't like biscuits. It's the fact that you're detracting the attention from where you want it to go. Exactly. So whether that's political, religious, controversial, for a world event happening, like fight one battle at a time. If you want to focus on controversial issues, go. I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but the charity stream ideally should be focused on the charity, nothing else. Your main goal is to, you know, ideally have fun, raise money, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, don't be the one guy who is detracting the attention from what you're originally intending to do because of ego or because of a sense of justice that you think needs to be done for something. Like, just use charity not as a platform, but instead as charity, you know? Instead.
Freaking Nick.
What do you think, Ben? What else wouldn't you do?
No, I would agree. Don't do that. Make sure you follow the rules for the charity. If you're running a charity for families, something that's family friendly, and that's how the charity brands themselves, don't get fucking wasted on stream and like in the middle of a charity stream and be like, oh my god, fucking let's raise the money for this stuff. Like, don't do that. That's doesn't play well on you, and you might at worst you could put the charity in a compromising situation.
You know, and that's a good thing too, is not only do you want to attract attention from the charity, you don't want to put unwanted attention onto the charity for, you know, for whatever reason.
Exactly. So you got your goal, you follow your rules, it's time to start your stream, you're going to set everything up, you hit start broadcast, and you go. That's it. I think honestly this part of your stream should be easy. The most simple form of a charity stream is to literally just kick your stream up, do what you normally do without any planning other than maybe advertising to your community, and just start a charity stream. Make sure you got everything set up on the back end first, and then just do it and make sure people know ahead of time. Do what you love doing and you'll be okay. That's really the simplest way to do it. There are a whole bunch of other formats of marathons that we're going to talk about right now. So if you're listening to this and you have an established community and you're thinking about putting on a big event, please pay attention, because there are a lot of missteps you can make with large events. In my opinion, one of the biggest things that you can do wrong is plan your marathon during a period of time where there is charity fatigue. If you're planning a charity marathon and you're going to put it to start right at the end of HEDQ, it is not going to be as successful on Twitch as if you were to maybe plan it in February over Valentine's Day or something like that. Making sure that you're not trying to dip into a charity pot that people have already sort of run dry. Remember, when you're raising money for charity, you're still raising money out of people's pockets. So people only have so much disposable income to go around every month. At the very least, try and make sure there's at least one pay period between your big event and the last most recent big event that you've seen on Twitch. That is key. And then moving on from that, there's a few different ways you can structure your event. One is what's happening right now with AGDQ, and that is an on-site event, which Teawrex can explain a little bit more about what that means as an on-site event.
Is going to be a thing where either a bunch of, since we're talking about streaming specifically, let's say you are you're Battlefield 1 streamer, and you and a bunch of your Battlefield 1 folks are getting together with Dice, who I think still makes that game and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think so. Dice, yeah.
All right. So let's say you're all getting together to put on a stream, and you're going to host it because let's say most of you are in the Midwest. You're going to host it in Chicago. So you're going to go to Chicago. Let's say you rent out a little nice hotel space, and you're going to do, let's say, I don't know, something about support our troops. I guess that makes most sense. So, and you're going to be streaming for like 48 hours. All that kind of stuff, and you're going to be trying to raise money for veterans, and maybe veterans are going to come in, and they're going to be there to either talk or play with you to help raise money as well. So an on-site event is basically just a bunch of people coming together to then raise money for a specific cause that you wouldn't be able to normally do a lot of the things you wish to do just by simply being online together. So that way you can, let's say, do silly gags or showing off cool prizes, doing crazy incentives where it's like, oh man, guys, if we raise $100,000, we're gonna pie the president of Dice right in the face, and he's like right there being like, I'm gonna get pied. Stuff like that can be a driver. So on-site events are, in my opinion, probably the strongest type of event you can do, but it requires definitely the most amount of effort because you do all the stuff you would normally do for an not on-site event, and then you add all the physicality to it of like arranging rooms, arranging flights, arranging all that stuff to come together, and everyone having to, do one or two or three more things to participate. And when that happens, a lot more can go wrong.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about online events, Ben?
Online events. So, as T said, on-site events are super complicated. Not only do you have the logistics of running the stream from one location, you have to get everyone there. They have the biggest potential for success, but they also have the highest level of investment. The one that I would recommend to people if you're trying to plan a big event, and this is what we did for GuardianCon, is an online marathon. An online marathon is where you say, I am personally going to stream 48 hours, or you pick a set period of time, you bring a bunch of broadcasters together, and you give folks blocks. And you say, okay, so-and-so streaming from this and this, these guys are streaming from this time to this time, and you just schedule it out. And you can make the structure of that however you would like. The key component to this is making sure that everyone is on time and cooperates, which when you're doing an on-site marathon, that's a benefit. If so-and-so doesn't show up, you can walk into their hotel room, kick in the door and say, hey, fuckface, you need to raise some money for your goddamn charity. What the hell are you doing? If it's online, someone can literally just disappear and not show up, and you won't be able to get a hold of them. And they know that. If they want to be a jerk, they know that, and they won't show up. So the big pitfalls to the online marathon is you have to make sure everyone's communicating properly. You have to make sure that everyone's on time, and you have to trust everyone who's involved. Then you have to make a decision, and you actually have to do this with an on-site event as well. Are we going to stream this on a new channel, or are we going to do this on a pre-existing channel? It's a big gamble, because doing it on one person's channel is great, but that person's channel is also going to get a lot of exposure, might pick up a lot of followers, might pick up a lot of native subs and things like that, and that can bruise people's egos. And then you have a whole bunch of really negative shit happening behind the scenes that's going to make people bothered. Like, oh, well, it's on so-and-so's channel, and they got 5,000 followers today, and they got 300 subs today, and I was just here to raise money for charity, but now they're getting all this exposure, and I want this exposure. People aren't going to remember my channel, and it becomes a mess. So if you're going to be doing it on a single channel, especially one that exists that's an individual's channel, you have to make sure, again, that you really, really trust the people who are there. Or, by the way, the benefit of that, it's already an established channel, so people will know to look for it. Starting a new channel is tough because nobody knows to look for the new channel. So your cross-promotion game on that side of stuff has to be insanely heavy. For the Destiny, for Guardian Con, with the Destiny community, every single person who was involved with the week-long charity marathon that we did agreed to raid, host, and tweet out that channel regularly, so it would have enough exposure that people would be able to find it. And T can talk a little bit about the back end of that. How, like, he saw me and was working with me and helping me run the event, and I can tell you, as the person who was organizing that, I slept about 2 to 4 hours a night because I was just so concerned that people weren't going to show up. And there's always all sorts of issues when people are working in satellite. What sort of stuff do you need to make extra sure of when you're having people kind of remote into the stream for a marathon? T.
I mean, it's a lot of just really boring clerical work, honestly.
It is true. But we're saying it so they know.
Yep, I know. I am. I'm boring. Just be ready. Be ready for. Be boring.
Ready for boring. But this is the most important shit you're about to hear. I swear to Christ, so important.
But make sure everyone understands the schedule. Make sure if there is changes, everyone knows changes the schedule. If you are behind, everyone knows you are behind. Explain why you're behind, so everyone's always informed. I would say that's key. Making sure everyone's always informed and up to date with everything going on. Because if they're not, then someone's gonna, let's say, they're gonna end when maybe they needed to go an extra 5 minutes just because of someone having to be late, and that was communicated, but someone didn't care to listen, or this, that, or the other. So then you have 5 minutes of dead air. And you're dropping the few folks who are watching, and you basically like lose momentum.
Yeah.
So that's gonna happen. 2, working with a lot of streamers is like herding cats. It's not fun. It really isn't. Like, it's really not.
It's tough.
I love everyone. I really like like Guardian Con folks raise a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. But working with multiple streamers with different time zones and different
international time zones,
it's a nightmare.
It's tough
because people. It's just everyone has their own goings on. So not only are you working with like, okay, this is my schedule, you're working with 100 schedules or 50 schedules. And at that point, even when you have a schedule in place and something goes wrong, everyone's like, no, this is the plan. And then you have to try to figure out who's going to be the person who's going to be like, all right, I'll go switch my slot, or I will go double time, or this, that, or the other. It's you. I will hands down say that anytime you're working with multiples, especially in like past 10 of streamers, or I'm assuming this extends to YouTube and other mediums as well, but anytime you include more and more people with more and more schedules, it's going to get more and more complicated. Yeah, it's pretty rough. So make sure that everyone's always communicating. Make sure everyone always knows what's going on. And I would say that's probably hands-on the most important part. But then you also, let's say it's on a singular channel. Everyone has the stream key. Everyone knows that, let's say, the way we did it for Guardian Con for the charity event was if you were on deck, you were in a Discord channel 15 minutes beforehand, and then you would get debriefed on what was going on. And then the person who was online, you would hop into their channel and be like, hey, what's up? In 5 minutes, I'm going to be streaming on this channel. And they'd be like, oh, are you? And then you basically hand off the torch. You do a countdown of like, I'm cutting my stream of the ingest, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You wait, handful of beats, hit start streaming. It goes down, comes right back up, and you proceed. So like, it's a lot of stuff. I don't necessarily think that there is a right or wrong way to do it. Because everyone does things differently. That's how we ran it. That's how Ben set it up and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, online events, I would say, are a headache simply because of the communication factor. Is that there's always going to be people who you have friends. You have friends who you love, who just never freaking respond to stuff.
Yep.
And when you need them to, they don't. You still love them, but man, in that moment, you just kind of want to punch them in the face. And you're going to have that feeling a lot, especially as you add more and more and more and more people. It may be a completely logical reason, like, oh man, yeah, they're in the hospital because they have super diarrhea. Like, oh man, they have super diarrhea.
Oh, that feels awful. Shitty. Oh god,
it just doesn't stop. Oh, it's awful. Like, whatever. But the fact that like you don't know that and you couldn't readily adjust makes it infuriating in that moment, just because you're in that situation. So, just kind of, I know it's a whole lot to take in, but I guess if I had to give a breakdown, everyone needs to always be informed on how you're running it, when they need to be there, and everything that's involved with that. That includes stream keys. That includes assets and overlays. That includes if they need someone to, let's say, read donations for them, make sure someone's there to help them do that if they can't do it on their own. All that kind of stuff. Like, there's so much that you may or may not use, but online marathons are a lot of upkeep. And if you don't upkeep it, it's going to fall apart.
Absolutely. I can tell you that when I was doing the Guardian Con stream, I had a list of every broadcaster, their time zone, and their time zone and when they were supposed to stream in my time zone and in theirs, so that I was making sure I was following up with them almost constantly. And I will definitely say that if you decide to take on the managing role as a director for one of these streams, you are where the buck stops. And if you stop showing up, shit will fall apart fast. Shit will start falling apart really fast. So if you're in charge, you need to accept that responsibility and treat it like a job for the amount of time that the stream is going to be on. And especially what T said, the biggest pitfall with the online marathon is that the channel goes offline because while you're transitioning, people don't know what's happening. Which is why having everybody raid the channel, host the channel, tweet it out constantly gives it a full churn of visibility. You don't just expect everybody to show up and then stay. You just don't expect everyone to show up and stay. Another little bitty detail that was brought up in chat is, how do you manage the username and password info? Username and password info is not required to broadcast on a channel. The only thing that's required to broadcast on a channel is the stream key. So you distribute the stream key to the people who will be broadcasting. Username, password, that belongs to you and any other event organizers that you trust. You don't distribute that information to everybody because you don't know if somebody might fuck it up. You have to protect your investment. I think right now for the Guardian Con channel, I know the username and password. Kevin knows the username and password. Corey knows the username and password. We're the only 3 people who have full access to the Guardian Con channel for the charity events. So the username and password is not something you have to share with everybody. Yeah. So online charity marathon, organize, plan, communicate constantly. And there you go. That's it. Though that is how you do a charity stream, guys. From the smallest charity stream, that's how you do a charity marathon.
Whatever the heck you want, honestly.
Charity stream, yeah. Like we said, if you want to just do a stream, you hit the broadcast button with the back end set up, and you're good to go.
Yeah. For the most part, and the one thing we didn't really talk about is incentives.
Incentives, yeah, we need to talk about that.
There's really no wrong or right way to do incentives. As long as, what I would recommend, if it's not prize related, it's like activity related, make sure it's something, one, you're comfortable doing, and two, just have fun. Don't do stuff that you're going to hate and be miserable for the next, let's say, 8 hours if you do it. Or, you do that at the end. Like, hey, I'm going to eat this super hot pepper, right? And the 2-minute mark, and I have 4 hours, and then the entire time you're just crying, and you're just... You gotta go
slobbering all over yourself
and all that stuff. But it's okay to be a fool for charity, and if people make fun of you for it, whatever. You're raising money for charity. A good example with that is, it's funny. It was 3 months ago. I got a message on Twitch. Someone told me that I ruined the AGDQ 2015 Battle Block Theater run with PJ and Mecca.
Oh man, yeah.
Because I was laughing and enjoying the run and doing what I was asked to do by the runner and fill gaps of dead time. Exactly. And I was like, okay. That makes sense.
That makes sense.
But, you know, like, if people are going to be mad at you for having fun, like, there's literally nothing you can do, right?
Yeah.
So make sure to take comments like that with a grain of salt. I try to. There's always bad days where comments like that will be like, oh, man. Damn. The funny thing about that, too, is, like, that guy, like, held onto that comment for, like, almost a year.
Yeah, it was rough.
And then finally watched it and sent it to me. But, yeah, just make sure that you're having fun, and I personally think that fun raises money the most out of anything else because people want to support, you know, a charity, and they also like being entertained. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I think that it's key when you're running the charity marathon or just a charity event, on all aspects of it. You shouldn't expect the fact that it's a charity to just make all of the magical normal problems that happen when you're broadcasting go away. You're still gonna have trolls. You're still gonna have technical difficulties. Shit's still not gonna work. Microphones are gonna break. People are gonna fall asleep. You're going to have problems. So don't go in with rose-colored glasses, assuming that, oh, it's for charity, so everyone's gonna care more. There's a high likelihood that because it's for charity, some people might care less.
Yeah.
And that is fine.
More too.
Yeah.
Because that's just it's a really weird thing, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, people like to be mad.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing nowadays.
Some folks just want to be mad. And you can't let that detract from your goal, which is raising money and having fun. So that is the depressing and dark truth of charity streaming and setting up the marathon. But at the end of the day, here's the cool thing. No matter how much money you raise, whether it's $100 or $1 million, the charity that you work with is going to be grateful.
Yeah.
Someone asked in chat, are they going to be mad if you don't hit your goal? No. If you raise money for a charity, if you give them $100 that they weren't expecting to get, they're nothing but pleased. You're helping their books. You're helping them fund, you know, it's feeding one more family a year. It's 1% closer to funding another grant. You know, every little bit helps with charity. So the one cool thing about charity broadcasting is if you're working with a charity, they are going to be a huge cheerleader for you. And just know that there's no way that you can disappoint them. And that kind of, I don't know, I feel like that provides a good backstop for me emotionally when I'm doing things. Like if I feel like I'm fucking up, I'm like, well, you know what? No matter what, we're raising money to help people.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
And then one thing that's just kind of about charity more in general is that I know this is very much a streaming centric podcast and discussion about streaming for charity. But if you're someone who cares more about charity than for streaming and you're a smaller, let's say, streamer individual and you're afraid of that monetary goal, like don't be afraid to also be like, you know what? I don't feel like I could do a streaming charity marathon myself or streaming a charity stream because I just don't want to, or I don't feel comfortable, or I don't think I'll do well. But you still want to support charity? It's okay to do. Let's say you're a runner. Let's say you're a runner who also streams, and you have, let's say, 1,000 followers, and you pull numbers every single night that you stream. Let's say you start talking about, hey guys, I'm doing this charity decathlon.
Absolutely.
If you want to support me for that, or let's say per mile or something like that, that's great too. You can do more than just put on the streaming thing. You can also use your stream as a networking source for charity if you don't feel comfortable doing that. It's okay if you don't want to and you still want to support charity. I believe in your ability to be creative and do more than just that if you really want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple questions about advertising and stuff in chat, and I feel like it's important to address. One, someone asked, is it important for you to contact the charity ahead of time so they don't come across promotional material and then get mad? If you're operating a charity on the up and up and you're making sure you follow the rules of conduct, they might just kind of look at you like, we wish you would have talked to us, but as long as everything you're doing is in a positive manner and reflects them properly, they're not going to be mad. St. Jude didn't know shit about Guardian Con happening, nor the charity stream. They just saw $544,000 show up in their bank account over the course of a week and had no fucking clue. They were not mad at us even a little bit. It is important to realize that at the end of the day, it's for charity, and charities recognize that. You don't have to treat a charity like you would treat a business all the time. If you want them to provide material and support and staffing for your event, then you need to talk to them. But if you just want to do it, they're not going to stop you.
Yep. Crap, I had a thought because it was important and I forgot what it was. It's unfortunate.
Rip.
Yeah.
So another thing that I saw asked in chat that I felt like it was important, and now we're sort of getting into the QA part of this, guys. So feel free to type your questions in chat or tweet me and Teawrex with the hashtag streaming101. It's at ProfessorBroman or at the Teawrex on Twitter, and we will take your questions from there as well. The other question was, should talent be paid for the event? I have yet to do a charity event on Twitch organized by broadcasters where people felt like they needed to be paid. Most people are willing to give out of their own hearts. And you know, they're just going to show up and spend money out of their own pocket and view it as part of their donation to the event.
Yeah.
That being said, if you are at a point where you need to start paying people, this probably isn't a podcast for you to watch.
I
might learn some stuff. Yeah, you probably know more than we do. You might be able to learn a couple of things based off of like what we're talking about organizationally. But as far as working with talent and things like that, if they're demanding to get paid, that is a conversation above our experience level.
I would even say, and just the flip side of that, if you feel like you are someone who's in a position to where you might get offered, my hard and fast rule for most things is like, I will help out most of the time for anything if I'm asked and I'm interested. I'm like, oh, dude, I would love to play this game early, maybe even off stream or something like that. But if it detracts from my business, I might not always ask, but maybe expect compensation. So if you're asking someone to, let's say, stream for your charity event, who is Lyric, but maybe not someone as big as Lyric. So take your pick of your broadcaster in your head, where they were going to be gone for a week from their home and they were going to stream from your office for a whole week and raise money for you. I would personally think that both sides should expect payment of some sort. It just depends on if you are not in the sense of like, oh, they're greedy. It's just like, no, you're taking their time and using their influence to help raise money for you. I wouldn't think it's unheard of to make sure that they get their bills paid and stuff like that. I don't know if that ruffles feathers or anything like that, but that's just my personal opinion.
That's true.
That, there's definitely a scale. If you are asking someone for a gratuitous amount of time where they can't work or make money on their own, then maybe consider something. I'm not even saying you have to pay them like, you want my help for 15 hours? That'd be 15 grand, please. Thank you. But, I think everyone has that point. And I know where mine is. Ben, I'm assuming, probably also knows where his is, if he has one. But make sure that's kind of established early on, so that way no disagreements are had or you burn a bridge because you expected, like, I thought I was going to make this much money off of this, and I didn't get paid anything when you never asked for it or they never.
Yeah.
A lot of those things.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've done a couple charity events that corporations were putting on that I was compensated for because I was considered part of the event cost. Yeah, so if that makes sense, if your event has a budget, the chances are you will be able to pay people to come to the event. And that's how you get them there. Hey, we're doing a charity stream. Our budget for the charity stream is $100,000. We're renting the venue. We're bringing in 5 content creators. We're bringing in hosts, we're bringing in lighting, rigging, everything. Like it's you become part of a budgetary cost. Again, that's probably not something that you're going to be dealing with setting up your first marathon. Any tips for a small streamer doing a solo charity event? Promote it, and make sure your back end stuff is done ahead of time. Make sure you got all your alerts and your goals set and everything ahead of time so you're not caught flying by the seat of your pants. You know what I'm saying?
The question, this kind of goes back to what we first talked about, but the question of, with PayPal taking a chunk of everything, is there a more effective way to collect? Usually a lot of larger charities are going to have a donation link. And typically those charities are set up in such a way to where there is no fee, or it's a reduced fee, or they have some sort of agreement with whatever service they're using that collects that money. To where, they probably have something on there and they pay, but typically like $25 goes directly to them. But then that gets taken out because they're also gonna have overhead. I don't believe in any charity having zero overhead, because then how do you raise money? Like, I just have to pay some people for services, or pay a company to, let's say, run a tool that tracks your information, or takes in stuff like PayPal. Like, there's always costs somewhere. But it be careful. Just, if you are handling money yourself, that is part of the problem, is that yes, PayPal will take some and stuff like that. So make sure if you can, ideally in every situation, try to never touch the money. I would just say flat.
Yeah.
If you can, don't touch it. Have a way where it comes into contact with you. You can track it, maybe seeing how much gets pushed through, but try to prevent any and all of that money just even touching you. Just that way people can't be like, hey man, I see you bought a soda.
Yeah.
That was Jimmy's soda. He has a tumor. He still has a tumor, guys.
Yeah. I think that's very important. Would you recommend smaller streamers wait until they have some sort of bigger audience to do a charity stream? No. If you're already broadcasting regularly and you have an audience, that's fine. That's perfect. The question I was kind of answering at the beginning is, I've never done this before. I've never streamed on Twitch. I want my first stream to be a 24-hour charity stream. That's a bad idea. It's not going to be good for you emotionally, because you have no idea what you're about to do. And you're not going to end up hitting the goals that you want, and you might end up raising no money, which would blow. So I would recommend, if you're broadcasting regularly, I don't see the harm in it. But again, set expectations properly.
It's a question we can't answer. Do you think you're big enough to do a charity stream? Do it. If you don't. If it's something that's going to bother you because you're like, man, which is like I said, if you think that the charity stream part is what would bother you, then, and you still raise money for charity, then do something else and then promote that thing that you're doing through your stream. Like, there are so many ways to raise money nowadays for so many fantastic events and charities that, like, you can do it however you want to. We're just kind of giving you a bare bones explanation of how generally things are done.
Okay.
Other questions on Twitter.
Yeah, I gotta. There's not a lot of questions on Twitter.
Your questions in chat. Do me your favor and do me your favor. Make sure
if you tweet your questions, if you tweet your questions, we won't lose them in chat. So the other thing is, someone asked about bits and subs. Unfortunately, if you're running a partnered channel and you want all revenue to go to charity, some revenue is going to end up going to you, because most charities are not going to feel comfortable giving you their routing number for their bank, which is perfectly fine for them. That's going to operate on the honor system, showing people, here is the money that I donated, which is not hard, especially if everyone is donating to the same location. You just take, everyone knows I got 100 subs this day and $400 in bits. Here's a $650 donation from me here. That usually clears things up. I've done that a few times. I have never caught any shit for it.
Just have proof. That's all that matters.
Not at all. All you need is proof, and it's easy to get proof. The hashtag is streaming 101, guys. Yeah.
Shouts to Ben eating his food, and I can hear it in the microphone.
I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to clear my teeth. So there is that. I'm trying to see if there's some other trying to see if there's anything else that is in there's not a lot of questions in chat, which actually kind of surprises me, and I'm not seeing a lot of questions on Twitter.
Well, I mean, this is more of a charity thing. So
this is more of a charity discussion. It's not as many questions.
This is more of a charity discussion. It's not as many questions.
There's
as many burning questions about charity.
Yeah, there really isn't. It's more of a curiosity. So to answer a couple questions that I see in chat, and since we're sort of in Q&A, to the moderator in chat that mentioned that they are a moderator and they have reached the breaking point of modding a chat, don't feel bad about walking away. Being a moderator is a volunteer position. You're not required to be there. You are a viewer first, and if you don't feel like you're being treated that way, you don't have any responsibility to that channel. You can walk away and let it burn, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
at all.
It's a situation where it's not always perfect, where like even someone who's incredibly positive can have a few, toxic folks in chat. But I'm always of the opinion that unless you're in a situation to where you have 30,000 people watching on a new game release day and you're the only one who has it, so you're attracting all these people who don't know you or your community, who are just wild cards in the sense of how they perform in chat. If you're with your regulars, like that's typically not going to be a problem, depending on how you raise your channel. It's as simple as that. I think you are the leader of your own community. That's a silly thing to say because I feel like it's obvious, but there's so many broadcasters who I feel like are led by their chat. Their chat dictates how they act, which is not at all how I feel like a community leader should act, whether it's for a game or for a charity. Like if chat's getting mad and it's something that you disagree with, you'd be like, hey guys, can we just not talk about that? Just you are the one who can lead the conversation. You can pick up and take ideas from them and run with them, but like if you're a mod and you feel like the broadcaster isn't really helping you out with reducing negativity or something like that, then yeah, like maybe you just shouldn't mod for him. I don't know. It's an individual decision for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has come up a lot, and I think it's important to address. Blue Chaos, along with others, have asked, I'm not sure if this has been answered, but what about charity streams towards a private foundation, like which I think tip that off to the side. What about charity streams for medical bills for streamers, family, partner, parent, etc.? Again, doing a charity stream to raise money to help someone is a little bit different than doing a quote air quotes charity stream to help yourself. We had a discussion about this today on my stream, and I think that the best place to draw the line is this. And it goes for the GoFundMe charity streams. It goes for approaching your community for money is a very delicate thing. And especially if you're going to be using it for personal stuff. In my mind, if you are someone who streams regularly, you have a full-time job, you come upon hard times, you're still working your full-time job, and your kid's sick and you have to help cover hospital bills, and you're like, listen guys, here's my donation goal, it's $3,000 so that we can cover Tim's hospital bills. That shit is fine. Because in the environment of Twitch, you're being a responsible adult and you're asking for help after you've done everything that you could. In my opinion, if you're trying to shortcut things like that, I have a presence on Twitch. Instead of working my regular job, I'm just going to ask everyone on Twitch to give me all the money for this because I don't want to work hard. Or God forbid, you have an established channel with a regular income and you just want something for yourself faster. And you say, I need money to pay for this thing that I just want. I think that is an abuse of your position. So I think you need to do it extremely carefully. I understand that you could be in a position where you would benefit greatly from approaching your community and saying, I need a little extra help. I think that's fine. But I also think I need a little extra help is different than do this shit for me because I don't want to fucking try any other way than this way. Because that is selfish. If you could alleviate the problem that you're... Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. I was just saying,
to sum up what I said, I'm sorry. Yeah, we keep interrupting each other. That's why we're not in the same room, guys. It's a problem. To sum up what I said, if your problems could be alleviated by you getting a traditional job along with your streaming thing, let's say you went full time too soon or whatever, or shit, you just ran on hard times. You were in a really difficult and morally ambiguous position when it comes to asking for money from your community, as opposed to taking on a traditional form of employment to cover that gap.
I'm of the opinion that you can run your stream however you want. I'm allowed to disagree with it, but I don't think there is a right or wrong way to run a stream. I'd like to think that people are, knowledgeable enough that if you feel like someone is just mooching off of you, you wouldn't support them, versus someone who you absolutely love and adore. I won't say their name, but I remember I was watching a stream to where I think someone wanted a hot tub, and they were just talking about it and being like, "You guys should, like, jokingly, you should pay for my hot tub." Pretty sure that they got all the money they need for the hot tub. That's a joke. And like, it's fine. That it's just, I don't know. I guess I think that sometimes I try not to concern myself with how other people
spend their money.
I'm always trying to focus on what I can do better.
I guess my answer that I gave comes from like a PR standpoint.
Sure.
If that makes sense. I agree with Teawrex. You can run your channel the way that you want, but you also need to be prepared to handle and manage the expectations and response of other people to what you've done. The answer I gave was definitely focused on trying to keep you out of hot water with anyone in your community and any other Twitch broadcaster that you might encounter. If you don't give a shit about that and you want to say, fuck it, I don't care what anyone says, do whatever the fuck you want. I just don't want to see anybody make a misstep and cause themselves, PR or social or confidence damage because of a decision that they have made.
It's very similar to what we talked about last week, to where, about having either a Patreon or a Game Wisp sub button, or having a tip link. It's all about scale of size. And if you think that you're entertaining enough folks that you can ask for things like that, I mean, sure. I guess I don't know. I literally just feel like I don't care.
I don't know. Teawrex is of an I don't care mindset.
Sorry if I don't know.
No, that's an appropriate answer. Yeah. We don't have to agree on stuff.
No.
We don't have to agree on stuff. There you go, guys. So don't make streaming a career. What T and I are saying is that there's a huge difference between streaming being your career, getting partnered, and establishing a rapport and this is at least what I'm saying. There's a difference between establishing a revenue stream and begging for a revenue stream. And if you think that every Twitch streamer is out there begging for subs, tips, donations, bits, whatever, your ass backwards. You can establish your channel without begging for a goddamn thing. And I think that is where the issue comes across, is that people don't. It is not a good PR move to be perceived as a panhandler.
No, for sure. 100%.
That's what I am saying.
I agree.
Yeah. There you go. I'm interested in how you walk the line between supporting a great cause and blatant self-promotion under the cover of charity to get publicity. Thanks and great work. That's actually a really good question.
Yeah, I was going to answer something very similar. It was all right.
Twitter. So what were your thoughts there?
I personally think it's a move you can do. I think it's scummy a little bit. My personal opinion. I think that you should want to run the charity, just kind of like how you should stream to, ideally because you like streaming. You should do the charity event because it looks interesting to you. You can do it for exposure, but to be like, that is goal one. And when you get larger, sometimes you have to make a decision, like I said earlier, if I'm not compensating you, like, is this going to benefit me enough to where it's okay that I take this time off and stuff like that? That's a kind of a different conversation. But if your main goal is to, like, yes, I want to get as many people involved to elevate myself and stuff like that, to me, that's more of like a social ladder climber problem and less of like a charity thing. Just don't use people like that. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think you got to be careful. People will always try and angle on things, and with that, I would say go with your instincts. It's really obvious to see if somebody's trying to get involved for the sole purpose of self-promotion, or if somebody's trying to get involved because they legitimately want to give some money to charity.
Yeah.
And on the same token, you got to be careful when you're working with companies. Sometimes they might be doing a charity event, air quotes, where the charity is getting peanuts in comparison to the whole event and scope of the event. This gets into some really sticky moral territory. Like, we've kind of gotten into the quagmire of morality when it comes to charity and stuff like that right now. Keep an eye out. Make sure the people that you're working with are on the up and up. And if something doesn't feel right, ask a question. Ask a question. Osgood says, charity is charity. Reward should not be on your mind. That's me, though. I think that it's easy to spot people who have a mindset of charity first. I would even go so far as to say charity first. And if I get a little bit of, if I get some exposure out of this or whatever, that's fine. Everyone has some self-serving motive.
Yeah.
Or I think it's possible to be 100% charitable and still be expecting a little bit of a kickback for yourself, because that shit happens. But you can tell when somebody is not charity first. Questions you might hear from that person. So how often are we tweeting the people who are involved with this event? Is this event going to be, if I host the event on my channel, how much can I promote myself? If you hear a lot of me-focused statements out of the person that aren't prefaced with some sort of concern of functionality for the charity, they're probably in it for themselves.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. You'd hope that the person who's already viewing the event has their own flowing already, pausing their usual content to raise money, something important for them, kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
It's like when I mentioned, like, if you're expected to take a large sum of time off, I don't think it is unrealistic to be like, can you cover my expenses for taking time off? There's a difference between seeking it to, it's kind of like, it's a good example. You go to your friend's house and he's like, hey man, I'll make sure to buy your dinner while we move my stuff to the new place. And they'd be like, oh dude, thanks. Now I don't have to worry about, making dinner. Cool. Versus like, my friend helps me move and I'm like, hey, can you give me $2,000? Like there's covering a need, and then there is, selfishness. And I think there is a fine line between that. And just like I said earlier, I think it's different per person. So make sure, you don't get screwed out of a crap ton of time and potentially money, by going with someone who's gonna, even a company who's gonna social ladder climb on top of you or on top of the charity to promote their game and something like that. Take care of yourself all around. This is not just a streamer concern. I think it's an everybody concern. Make sure you're not being abused for anything, all that kind of stuff. Crickets.
I'm typing in chat and responding to something stupid.
So here's a question from Sapphira.
Yeah.
What is the etiquette for streamers to ask others to help with the charity event? If you're going to ask, we already kind of covered this earlier when I was talking about people who come into my chat and be like, hey, I want to post my GoFundMe. And some people also ask, they ask and then do it without like really waiting for the answer. So it's like, I asked, yeah, but it's like you didn't fracking wait for the answer. It's like saying, hey, officer, can I borrow your gun? And then immediately going for the gun before they say anything. Like, whoa. That's a thing. So, just do it Even if it's just for fun, do it professionally. You know, be courteous. Don't do it in a rude or gotcha manner where you put them on the spot. Send them an email, send them a PM, send them a Twitter message being like, hey, can I DM you or email you? Or, hey, can you check your Twitch messages? Because I sent you something about this. Like, that is ambiguous enough to where if someone saw it, they'd be like, oh, I wonder what they're talking about, versus like, oh, Professor Broman ignored a thing from St. Jude's. He must hate St. Jude's. I knew it. He hates charity. Yeah. It's one of those things.
Now, this is a good question from Vibronium. Says, how does one approach the idea of getting your name out there while you're doing a charity stream?
It's kind of like what we more or less just addressed.
Yeah. But to take it one step further and kind of deal with, let's say you're a smaller streamer and you're trying to get your name out there, aka I'm running an event and I want to get people involved. How do I reach out? Business emails are fantastic. Tweets are fantastic. Don't be afraid. If you're not selfishly motivated, people are not going to blast you. That's what I would recommend.
No. And I guess I do find it a bit concerning. Just make sure you're doing things for the right reasons at all times, whether it's streaming, whether it's charity. But like the fact that most of the questions have been also regarded to like how, and in less nice terms, how do I get mine while doing the charity event? Make sure your heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
At that point, just don't do it. Like if you really want to mainly do exposure, then just don't do the charity thing.
Yeah. If you're trying to get exposure,
like
stream more.
Yeah.
A charity event is not going to
elsewhere.
Charity events are not going to launch your channel into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're running a charity event for the sole purpose of self-promotion, you're probably not going to be as successful as you could be with the charity event.
Yeah. And I'm not saying anyone who's asked has that intent, but it's just, like I said, it's concerning that that's most of the questions we've got have been of that nature. So I just wanted to make sure that if that's what you want, then do that. Just don't do that with charity. You know, detach yourself from the thing that could get you in trouble. How do you go about handling big donations during a charity stream? $8,000 and over. I mean, that's like, once again, that's a personal preference thing. Like, one, if you mean like, how do I be like, oh, I got $1,000 in my PayPal account, how do I deal with giving this away? I mean, we already talked about that earlier. If you mean like, do I hype it up? That's a feel thing. Like, you got to feel the room. You know, if you're doing a thing like GDQs to where you're getting constant hundreds of dollars and all that kind of stuff, you got to kind of pick and choose. Like, oh man, we got 10 grand versus like the $500. 500 is still a lot.
Yeah.
It's all about scale and what else you've been doing, right?
Yeah. You got to make sure you don't make anybody feel like slighted. But at the same time, you still need to make sure you celebrate big events. Yep. You know, if somebody donates $2,000, that's obviously a more hype driving event than someone donating $5, but it doesn't mean that the smaller donations are worthless. One of the things they do with the GDQ events, and we try to do with Guardian Con, is if there's a small donation with a heartfelt story attached to it, that's perfect. Look at this person who donated $2 to remind in memorial of her grandmother that passed away this year. You know, she fought cancer so hard. And we have a $2,000 donation from so-and-so. Like that, the both of those things carry emotional weight. Even though numerical weight isn't the same.
Make sure to read the room when you do that too. Don't be like, hey man, we're playing the most, you know, this is the most hype fight ever. And then you cut in being like, and here we have $5 from Madame Guinevere, whose husband passed away last year from cancer. Like, that's, although that is a sweet message, it is not timely. Like, just it's a lot of the stuff is kind of finding your own way. Most of the time, when you get very specific with your charity questions, a lot of the stuff is I could sit down and talk to you about an hour, but it's very much you just have to do it. It is a self-taught skill. Simple as that. I can't teach you how to interact with people or a crowd or stuff like that. That's something only you can do. It's a social skill. You simply can't teach necessarily social skills. You can give instructions about what's worked for you, but if they're polar opposite of you, I was gonna say polarity. I don't know what word I was trying to go for there. If they are the polar opposite of you, it's not going to work, right? So just all that stuff, like normal.
All that stuff.
But charity streams are great, man. Like, have fun, raise money.
Yeah. We do spend a lot of time answering questions and dealing with concerns because both T and I have the strongest desire to see everybody succeed. And in doing what we've done for as long as we have, getting close to a combined 10 years of experience broadcasting between the two of us.
We have 8 right now.
We have 8. Yeah, we have 8 right now. It'll be 10 next year.
Yep.
We have seen so many people make so many mistakes, and focusing on all of those mistakes and making sure that you just don't fuck it up will lead to success. That was the single focus point of when I was running the Guardian Con stream, was if we can just avoid all of these mistakes, it's going to go perfectly, and it did. So at the end of the day, you're raising money for charity, and it's incredible, and it's such a positive and wonderful experience. You might have some problems, but it's going to go so well for everyone involved if you can keep your eye on the prize and stay focused.
The pitfalls of broadcasting and charity and everything like that is that there is more pitfalls than there is steps, you know?
Yeah.
There's great things that can happen, but it's a minefield, you know, because it's entertainment. Entertainment's always a minefield. About what you can and can't say and how do you engage and all that kind of stuff. So we don't ever necessarily mean to be overly negative, because that's a comment we sometimes get, and it's just like it's not that we're negative, it's just this is the reality of the question.
The reality,
and it just it's kind of poopy butts. There's more things that we have to warn you about than things we have to excitedly tell you about. Doesn't mean that we don't love streaming anymore. Just, you know, sometimes not everything is perfect, and you have to explain how to, as Ben said, not fuck it up.
Yeah. But I think that we've kind of covered all of the charity bases here, guys. So I think for this episode of Streaming 101, now that your mind is laden with all sorts of worries and stress, we're going to call it. So thanks for watching today, guys. I am Professor Broman. You can follow me on Twitter at ProfessorBroman, or on Twitch, twitch.tv/ProfessorBroman, and YouTube at youtube.com/BenWCA, where this episode will be going up shortly. And my esteemed brother Teawrex will tell you where to find him on all of the places.
Yep. Twitch.tv/Teawrex, TEAWREX. It's, I think I'm out of the way, maybe. I don't know. I can't tell because there's a delay. Right there. And on Twitter, I am twitter.com/TheTeawrex. And I sometimes make YouTube stuff, but there's not much of that. So follow me on YouTube and Twitch. Twitter and Twitch instead. There's more stuff there.
It's there. Bye, guys. Thank you for watching.